going, and hopefully John can join us. At this point, we're going to call the meeting to order of the External Affairs Committee of the JEA. And since there's no one else to question the agenda at this point, the agenda is set. Approval of the minutes. We will move to the board meeting due to the lack of an in-person quorum. Values moment. Lindsay Stammer.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chairman. For a quick safety briefing, since this is a virtual meeting, please be mindful of your surroundings and conscious of your individual safety hazards and evacuation routes. Thank you. My name is Lindsay Starner. I'm the Director of Corporate Strategy here at JEA. I've had the pleasure of working here for around 24 years, give or take a few months, and JEA has given me the opportunity to work in many different areas. I've been in the Environmental Services Department twice now, once as a civil service employee and once as a manager. I've been out at our Northside generating station working with our electric production and fuels groups, within our Human Resources Department, conducting process improvement and utility of the future work, and now with corporate strategy, helping guide, align, and execute our strategic direction. My group is small but mighty. There are currently only 3 of us. However, we work to ensure alignment with our corporate mission, alignment with our values, alignment with our strategic focus areas, and alignment with our strategic objectives. We work within each business unit to unify us all and communicate a path forward for the execution of our strategic plans. We do this to better our business, customers' experiences, workforce, and future. We do this to become the best utility in the nation. Saying this, I'm proud to be in front of you all today delivering our values moment, as our values are the lenses we look through to view our strategic objectives. Of the 3 values, safety, respect, and integrity, I thought we'd take a minute to dive deeper into respect. What does respect mean? Respect is being honest and truthful. Respect is being transparent. History is riddled with quotes about respect, honesty, truthfulness, and transparency. No good man has good enough memory to be a successful liar. The great Honest Abe. Honesty is the first chapter in the Book of Wisdom, Thomas Jefferson. Truth never damages a cause that is just, Gandhi. So how here at JEA do we show respect? Well, we must view our values and objectives, as I mentioned, through the lenses of respect. We must be transparent to our customers about how we ensure reasonable rates to gain their loyalty and deepen the community's engagement. We must be truthful about our actions, direction, and intent in order to foster an exceptional work culture and boost employee engagement. We must be honest about our intentions and planning for the future and how we'll utilize and execute our integrated resource plans and continue to build upon our resilient and reliable infrastructure. We have to realize that all people are different. We all come from different backgrounds, religions, regions. Just here at JEA, I've explained how I've come from different locations, different departments, different leadership, and different culture throughout the years that I've been here. However, we must embrace these differences and continue to be honest, continue to be truthful, and continue to be transparent, continue to be respectful in everything we do, since these values cross all our cultures and all our differences. We must treat one another with courtesy and respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. That was great. It's something we should all live by. Thank you very much. Comments from the public. Is there anyone in the room, or what do we have, Landon?
At this moment, we have no raised hands or comments submitted via the chat.
No raised hands in the room either.
Okay, great. So public comments is closed. So the committee would like to talk to economic development and community engagement. And so Paul Mitchell.
Good morning, Chair Morales. Paul Mitchell with Economic Development, and I'm excited to update the committee on a couple of items related to our economic development programs. As an economic development driver in Northeast Florida, JEA is committed to lead and support the region's growth initiatives by focusing on site readiness, to assess and invest in utility infrastructure to enhance key sites and assets, downtown revitalization, to support and partner with the City of Jacksonville to enhance downtown revitalization plans and to refresh our economic development incentives programs. This all drives economic growth and additional companies that increase the tax base, capital investment, and new jobs in Northeast Florida, thus contributing to our mission to improve lives and build community. But the first step is to provide a value to existing and potential companies by offering more competitive rates for our services. This is currently addressed through our existing Electric Economic Development Program Rider, or EDP. The purpose of the program is to encourage growth and attract expansion by lowering the cost of energy. To qualify for this program, a company must bring at least 300 kilowatts of new or increased demand and commit to create at least 15 jobs in our service territory, which is a fairly low requirement. The discount is then provided for 6 years, starting at 30% and declining by 5% over the life of the program. There's also an extra 5% granted if a business is in an area where there's excess capacity. We would like to also offer this discount to economic development projects that locate in downtown areas. How is the program accessed? Our key accounts team identifies companies that might qualify. Our economic development team does the same. And we include the EDP and JAX USA proposals to prospect companies that are looking to locate or expand in Northeast Florida. At this moment, our 18 companies have economic development rider agreements in place. While we've had success with this program, we would like to also propose an enhanced discount or second tier to the discount for larger, more competitive economic development projects. The program would be 9 years, starting at 45%, decreasing by 5% per year over the next 8 years. To qualify, the business would have to bring 500 kilowatts of increased or new demand and create at least 50 jobs. But for this tier, we would like to propose that the project be in one of Florida's target industries. It's identified by JAX USA and the City of Jacksonville's Office of Economic Development. They are manufacturing, defense and aerospace, life sciences, logistics distribution, IT, financial and business services, and headquarters projects. These industries typically pay higher wages and create a great deal of capital investment. But since the program exists within our electric tariff, a public hearing is necessary to edit and add these proposals. The changes will not impact any existing customers. At this time, staff seeks a recommendation for the board approval to call for a public hearing at the June 27 board meeting to approve the enhancements to the economic development program tariff. Happy to address any questions, but at this time, this concludes my presentation.
Great, Paul, thank you. I would like to also welcome John Baker, that was able to join us and has been on for most of the meeting, and I forgot to mention it a few minutes ago. Welcome, John. I just had a couple questions. How long has the current program been in place?
The original tariff started in 2013.
Gotcha. So we currently have 18. So this would just be another tier added. That program would remain, but there would be another tier available for larger customers.
Correct.
Super. This sounds like a good movement, and it seems to be well tailored towards industries we're trying to lure to Jacksonville. I didn't know if anyone else had any questions. Honored. All right. Seeing none, we will bring this to the entire board for a vote and for a public hearing at one point. Will the public hearing be at the next meeting?
The June 27th meeting.
That's what I thought. Okay, not at the next one, but the following meeting. All right.
Chairman Morales, if you don't mind, at the next meeting, the board will call for the public hearing to take place on June 27th. So there will be some action taken at the next board, but it's really just the call for the hearing, and then the hearing will take place in June.
Got it. Right, and that's when the board will then approve move this, that's how we move this revised tariff forward.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Understanding. All right. Well, thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Paul, policy development impact in JEA. Kurt. Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Mr. Baker. Kurt Wilson, Government Relations. I'm here to update the committee on a couple of notable bills moving in the Florida State Legislature. We're in week 7 and 9 of the session, and with over 2,000 bills introduced, we are following a few closely. And as always, please feel free to stop me at any time with questions. I'd like to start off by mentioning the House leadership's priority for water quality and water quantity for this year and beyond. One opportunity to expound on this was JEA's invitation to present at the House Subcommittee on Water Quality Supply and Treatment a few weeks ago. Ray Marshall did an excellent job representing JEA's efforts on our resiliency projects, environmental stewardship, capital investment plans, and advanced treatments like our purified water program. The chair of the committee is our very own St. Johns County Representative, Cindy Stevenson, who stated on the record she is a proud JEA customer for over 20 years. The first bill we'll discuss is House Bill 1331 and its companion 1380 in the Senate. These two bills are receiving a lot of public attention around the state as it restricts municipalities' ability to transfer reasonable rates of return from their ownership of utility services they provide. Cities across Florida have been passing resolutions urging the legislature to kill or amend these bills due to the significant budget impacts they will incur. Jacksonville and Jacksonville Beach have each passed similar resolutions. And the good news is that each week that goes by gives us hope that we're in a better place. The bill has still not been heard in the Senate, and the House has not placed it on the agenda for its next committee stop. There is a 50-day rule in the Senate that makes passing these bills extremely difficult procedurally. In essence, after April 26th, the Senate committees are prohibited from meeting. Next, we're following Senate Bill 256 and House Bill 1445, and these are titled Employee Organizations Representing Public Employees. The bill affects unions by limiting the employees and the employer's ability to payroll deduct dues, fees, and memberships. It also requires a minimum 60% membership for the union to remain certified under PERC to collectively bargain for its members. The bill exempts public safety unions, but includes almost every other public sector labor organization, including ours. The bill was approved in its final House committee stop last Tuesday and waits the full House vote where it's expected to pass down party lines. The Senate version has already passed. JEA is committed to working with our union leadership to help minimize impacts to them while still complying with the law. Last is Senate Bill 1632 and its companion House Bill 1379. And although this is a DEP authorization bill, up to about 2 weeks ago, it required local government's jurisdiction. Any development of more than 50 residential lots, built or unbuilt, include a plan to provide sanitary sewer services within a 10-year planning horizon. This would have required Jacksonville to phase out up to 60,000 septic tanks within the 10-year time frame. Thankfully, an amendment was passed that now requires governments to identify a plan to address nutrient concerns and impacted areas within their 10-year comp plan, something Jacksonville already does. Both the Senate and the House versions have one last committee stop on this one. And before I conclude, Chair Morales, I'd like to give a special thanks to Renee Manna, our Manager of Government Relations, who has been in Tallahassee the last several weeks leading our advocacy strategy on these bills while spending a great deal of time away from her family. It's the sacrifices and efforts of employees like Renee and many others at JEA that truly make us best in class. Thank you, sir. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation and take any questions.
Well, thank you, Kurt. It sounds like y'all have had your finger on the pulse of everything happening over there, which is always kind of exciting and interesting. We never know what's going to happen, but y'all have done a fabulous job of staying up and keeping us informed. And it appears that at this point, you know, mostly favorable on the tariffs situation and so forth, and everything else seems to be completely out of our control. But
Yes, sir.
thank you for keeping us informed. I didn't know if Mr. Baker had any questions.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Rick.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, thank you, Kurt, and keep up the good work. And I hopefully in a few weeks this will all be done, and we could rest for I guess another 8 or 9 months, because I guess the session will be early again next year for because the elections.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on to the summer and spring marketing and branding. I've really enjoyed watching these commercials, and Jesse might be stolen by a talent scout.
We have one other topic on the update that I think Wayne is going to do real quick.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
We're not
Sorry,
fast
Wayne.
enough. We aren't fast enough moving there. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Director Baker. Over the next few minutes, I will present an update on a few major regulatory environmental issues pertaining to JEA operations. The first to be addressed is PFAS and its potential impact on our drinking and wastewater operations. You might have heard the term PFAS mentioned in the national news and the impact it has on drinking water and human health. PFAS compounds, formerly known as polyfluoroalkyl substances, are a family of man-made chemicals designed to be extremely resistant to heat and water. And unfortunately, they are also highly resistant to natural decay and do not break down in the environment. PFAS exist in common items used daily, such as non-stick cookware, fast food packaging, water-repellent clothing, and in firefighting foams and pesticides. The Environmental Protection Agency has jurisdiction over monitoring PFAS in the nation's drinking water and has recently proposed a drinking water regulation that would establish legal levels for 6 PFAS compounds found in drinking water. The new regulation would require water utilities to test their drinking water for PFAS, and if PFAS compounds are detected in established concentrations, then the drinking water will need to be treated for PFAS removal. In terms of this regulation's impact on JEA, we will be required to test our drinking water for PFAS. However, there is high confidence that we will not experience the established concentration levels. This is because our drinking water source, the Floridian aquifer, is highly protected through natural attributes that prevent chemicals from entering into the aquifer. As we advance in promoting water conservation and embark upon potable water reuse, I should also mention that we have the same level of confidence in the drinking water product, since the potable water reuse plants will be equipped with technology to drastically reduce or eliminate PFAS compounds. So regarding the new PFAS regulations for drinking water, we are pleased to anticipate minimal impact for JEA. However, there's another aspect of PFAS regulations that I would like to bring to your attention in regards to wastewater. EPA is currently developing regulations concerning PFAS in wastewater. This area has not received the same level of public attention as drinking water. However, we are monitoring EPA actions very closely and engaging with EPA where possible. As stated earlier, PFAS compounds are found in a variety of consumer products and industrial applications. Products and applications that unfortunately make their way into our wastewater system. As EPA begins to assess PFAS in wastewater, they could designate PFAS level that would require upgrades to our reclamation plants to reduce or remove the PFAS. Last year, the American Water Works Association commissioned a study to estimate capital investment costs for PFAS reduction or removal based on volume of effluent. In the way of financial and operational impact to JEA based on our 80 million gallons, JEA's capital cost for PFAS reduction or removal would range from $128 million to $160 million, and our annual O&M costs would range from $4 to $5 million. Another component of PFAS in wastewater, which is dependent upon limits set, is the possibility that utilities could be held liable for environmental remediation of areas cited for wetland replenishment of biosolids usage. Regarding liability associated with environmental remediation, it is JEA's position, as well as utilities throughout the entire country, that utilities are simply a passive receiver of what enters into our plants. It is our position that the PFAS manufacturer is the actual polluter and should be held liable. In other words, the polluter pays. Currently, JEA and utilities countrywide are engaged in a very strong lobbying campaign with Congress to exempt utilities from responsibility of remediation due to PFAS contamination in wastewater. And before I move on to a very brief update on the Clean Air Rule, are there any questions on PFAS?
No, I guess the utilities that are really pulling from reservoirs and so forth are much more highly impacted on something like this than we are.
Yes, sir, they are. Those that pull from reservoirs and from groundwater, a major impact there.
I would imagine. And I can understand completely the stance that, yeah, the polluter, instead of they're putting it down the drain, then we become responsible for it. That
Yes,
doesn't,
sir.
that's the ultimate of passing the buck I've ever heard of.
Yes, sir. So we're fighting hard to be exempt from that, even as a collector.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The Clean Air Rule was established to support reduction of greenhouse gas emissions for power plants. By congressional mandate, EPA is periodically required to assess the best technologies and nationwide practices for greenhouse gas reduction. They are also tasked to establish policy to have those technologies and practices implemented by other power utilities. In essence, EPA's actions regarding the Clean Air Act will focus on reducing the amount of emissions associated with coal and oil-fired power plants. Any decrease in emission limits would most likely call for emission improvements for units at our Northside Generation Station by making modifications to respective units or limiting the use of specific units. As we stand today, and in a nutshell, the good news is that we are continuously monitoring emissions as part of our daily current standard operating practices and have been successful in meeting current EPA imposed parameters. We will continue to apply the same principles of operating to mitigate any future EPA reductions. And in closing, I will also state that the topic of greenhouse gas reduction was discussed and assessed in drafting our electric integrated resource plan. In essence, the IRP, Integrated Resource Plan, takes into consideration the prolonged process, and it is a very long process, associated with EPA rulemaking, and also the variability associated with those rules. Such variabilities would include rule interpretation, litigation, geopolitical perspectives, as you pointed out earlier, as far as PFAS. Those pulling from the reservoir have a different situation to deal with than those who are pulling from groundwater or aquifer. The same thing exists with emission rules. So those variabilities for rule interpretation, litigation, geopolitical perspectives, and other influences will really stretch out the time before an actual rule comes out from EPA. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Wayne. That's a lot to keep track of, and your group does a great job at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to Tim Hunt to talk about the summer branding.
Tim. Hey, Tim, you're still muted. Still.
Oh, we love technology.
There it is. There you go.
Sorry about that. I was on double mute. Good morning, Chair Morales and everybody else present. Thank you. One of the metrics included in JEA's corporate scorecard is customer satisfaction. And broadly speaking, this metric is composed of two components: how our customers perceive us, and from the perspective of both reputation and operational performance. We measure this using J.D. Power's national study. This study measures customer perception and ranks us with another 150 or so utilities. The road to long-term success on this metric is to meet the customer's expectations operationally, while at the same time staying true to our values, which drives reputation. But while these two components are necessary for long-term success, they're not sufficient. The other ingredient that helps to inform customer perception is education. And this is one of the roles that communications team fills in educating our customers about the good things that happen at JEA each and every day. The education component also serves as a counterweight to messaging originated by the media. Nearly 2/3 of JEA customers who recall seeing a story about JEA in the media rate the tone of these messages as negative, something that will clearly impact their perception. In fact, we see a 100-point difference in customer satisfaction scores between those who only recall hearing about JEA through the media versus those who also recall receiving information from JEA. Looking a little deeper at this balance between media stories versus JEA communication, we see that 44% of JEA customers recall hearing a story about JEA in the media over the past 3 months. This has a disproportionate impact to our customer satisfaction scores when you consider only 27% of mid-sized utility customers in the South recall media stories. However, our comms team is also reaching our customer base, as we can see 48% of JEA customers recall seeing communications from JEA compared to 45% of customers in the South. Communication from JEA can take many forms, be it email campaigns, bill inserts, letters from Jay, as we just saw yesterday, or through the radio, TV, and online. One particular form of communication that we have expanded dramatically at JEA over the past few years is through alerts, getting important and timely, time-sensitive information to customers on a variety of topics through text, phone, and email. One example of this is around outage communication. Some of us at JEA are fond of describing our role as keeping the lights on and the beer cold, and perhaps we can all agree with this as customers. But when events such as a storm interrupt our customer service, recovery and communication are critical to maintaining customer trust. Best practices identified by J.D. Power tell us 4 pieces of information that a customer needs in this scenario: an estimated time to restore the power, when we're en route, a confirmation that their power should be back on, and what caused the outage. While we've had a process in place to provide these critical pieces of information, we're now working to expand this alert by making it proactive. That is, not waiting for a customer to call us in order to begin sending them updates. The end in mind of this project is to quickly identify all who are impacted by the outage and to begin this alert process as quickly as possible. Regardless of the topic, by providing relevant, timely, and accurate information to our customers through the right channel, we can help shape customer perceptions. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mark.
Thanks, Tim, and good morning, everyone. As Tim was talking about the feedback from the J.D. Power survey, we're covering in that pretty much the what and the why we do what we do in communications. But we also go a little deeper to assess the how, to assess customer perceptions and the ways they filter and receive information, and the best ways to reach them and provide that dialogue with them. So in addition to the sources of feedback that we get from the J.D. Power survey reports and analysis, we also are sharing best practices with others in the industry. We're doing customer surveys and focus groups, which I'll talk more about in just a minute. We are also getting and gathering feedback from social media and our customer call center as feedback loops on messaging and or the customer satisfaction that we need to address. We're doing online surveys, and of course, we are assessing the feedback we get from our employees and our other stakeholders, as well as you, the board, and our leadership team as we assess and support the vision of the leadership team going forward. As I mentioned, through the end of 2022, worked with our partner agency and a nationally experienced research firm to conduct several focus groups and a quantitative benchmark survey of more than 1,100 respondents and customers. The survey was to serve as an initial benchmark of their perceptions of JEA's brand, reputation, and performance on additional key attributes among residential and small business customers. What you see on this slide is a number of the high-level takeaways. The report goes into a lot of detail, but I'll touch on a couple here. What we found was we're starting from a pretty good place. 71% of the respondents were generally favorable towards JEA and generally trusted JEA to do what's right. So that's a good base, a good starting point. Also, our response to emergencies is seen to have improved. There's a perception that we are responding better to emergencies. 1 in 4 residential customers and 2 in 5 business customers do express some frustration. Obviously, this is a period where we're just coming off of some very high commodity prices and fuel charge prices that showed up in customer bills. We also discovered that those under 45 were more likely to be critical of JEA. But that's also in line with their lower favorability toward many other companies. So there is a skepticism there across the board toward business among those under 45. We did also identify some opportunities from this research. When prompted, respondents perceive that value for money has declined. So we have to draw the line between what they're paying and what they get in return. We also learned that African American customers were more likely to say that JEA offers poor value. That's not a majority view, but compared to, say, white customers, the percentage was 35% of African Americans have that feeling compared to 22% of white customers. So we do want to make sure that we are continuing to bring those numbers down in terms of the lack of perceived value. We want to make sure that more perceived value as we move forward. So one of the things we learned from the campaign last year and from this research, all combined, are that we need to define and reinforce what it means to be community-owned. I know that even before I started in this role, Board Member Baker was leading us in this direction, and his instincts proved out in the research, and we are incorporating that into the current campaign that is in flight now. We also need, and this is something that J.D. Power emphasizes, we need to show examples of how we provide value for money. We also need to rely on, since we are community-owned, rely on our community team members to share the story, have them be seen and have them be recognized as members of the community and as neighbors. And as Tim pointed out, while we may have higher recall and memorability compared to some others in the region, we do believe there is an opportunity that we've seen in our research to improve those recall and memorability numbers. So to address that, we are increasing frequency and the breadth of our TV, radio, and digital buys. So with that, I hope you'll see in these examples of the current campaign that we are trying to hit on all of these.
What does it mean to be a community-owned utility?
It means that we serve our customers, not investors.
That we're always focused on keeping our rates as low as possible.
That we invest in our people and infrastructure to deliver reliable, sustainable services.
And that we're dedicated to this community we all call home.
Because for more than 125 years, your community-owned utility has been here to serve you.
And only you. Your community, your utility. How does JEA work to keep costs down? We actively manage our energy costs to keep them as low as possible. And as a not-for-profit, you only pay what we pay to serve you. That's the value of having a community-owned utility.
And again, not just TV, we are on radio, and this is a screen capture from one of our digital billboards, and that you'll see on social media. There's a new flight that's heading out this week featuring some new employees. This campaign will continue to run through most of the summer. We will begin to bring in some hurricane prep related messaging as well as we get deeper into the summer. At the conclusion of the campaign, our plan is to go back out into the field with more focus groups and to survey similar to the initial benchmark survey in order to gauge direction and whether we're making progress with this campaign and our communication strategy overall. We'll of course keep you, the committee, informed and the board about these efforts as we proceed. Happy to take any questions, Tim or I.
Yes, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Tim. Obviously, I've witnessed many of these commercials and the billboards, and I think they've been great. And Jay's email that I received last night on the way home was really good. I wasn't sure exactly what it was when it first came in. I'm like, but I realized it was a community-wide email and not just a JEA email. It's a customer email, not a board member email. But I thought it was.
I'm glad you're a customer, Rick.
Yeah, I am a customer. It's I thought it was excellent. I don't know if there's been much feedback on it yet, but I think spreading good news is also just as important as spreading bad news. Unfortunately, when we have to, due to the costs that we were experiencing in the last fall with the natural gas prices and so forth. But I thought it was excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Grant funding, Jamie.
Yes, good morning. Oh, you could have left that other slide up. I like it. It makes a smile on my face. Good morning. I'm Janie Smalley, Senior Advisor, Laura Shepis. And yesterday was my 6-year anniversary at JEA. I came into JEA as a manager in the customer area. I was managing policies and procedures, and then in the commercial area. As Senior Advisor, one of my responsibilities is to lead our efforts in pursuing grants and external funding. And this is why I was invited to speak with you today, to tell you how we're elevating our capabilities. And right off the bat, I want to tell you we have 8 active applications, 2 in progress, and many more that we're monitoring. We have 12 water projects that we're looking at potential funding for EPA. And we're building our muscle to apply for grants by creating a central point of collaboration. We're working cross-functionally, and we're building partnerships with the City of Jacksonville, the research institutions, and the private sector. And I have 2 examples that I want to share with you today. The first example is a recent development. We worked with the city in partnership to get nearly $1 million. This money is going to help us expand our home weatherization and repair project that Sheila's team is collaborating on with community organizations and small businesses. And the second partnership is an example with SSEB. That's the Southern States Energy Board. SSEB is a consortium of 16 states, and they're very successful in pursuing federal dollars. And we were invited to participate on this project in December. We had to act quickly in order to get into a small pool of applicants to pursue the funding with DOE. If funded, this project will support resiliency and reliability for critical infrastructures such as military bases, hospitals, and emergency services. It can also provide community-scale protections, which will enable us to extend this support to underserved communities. And now I'd like to show you the tool in Teams. So what you're seeing is the tool that we're using to monitor grant activities. We have a lot of eyes watching those dollars from DC coming down to Florida. We've got our DC consultants, our Tallahassee consultants, our grant writers, trade associations, and JEA employees, all feeding information to help build this tool out. As our funding programs are announced, they're reviewed to see if they're a right fit. I review the criteria and determine our eligibility. Among other things, I look at, does it align with our capital improvement plan and our strategic objectives? I also ask, are we eligible to apply as a lead applicant or as a partner? If it all looks good, then I reach out to the program teams, and together we decide the best step forward. As you can see, the tool is color-coded. All that green, those are applications that are active. The color coding helps the user at a glance see what progress that application is making. It's also designed to allow the team members to sort the information at the top. They can sort by program, they can sort by strategic objectives, eligibility, all sorts of information. And then as you scroll to the right, you can see we have other information about the mechanism, the funding mechanism, the status, or the notes. And that is all I have to share with you today. I appreciate your time, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the Inflation Reduction Act, I know, had a lot of new aspects to it. And I guess y'all are still working on that and everything else that's coming out of Washington and Tallahassee.
Yes, sir, we are.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to add just something. Normally, this got a little bit more detail than we normally would show you, but it is because of the Inflation Reduction Act and other, there's lots and lots of talk about this, and several board members have said, hey, they see something, and this is a way for us to capture it, track it, and just wanted to be sure that you saw the detail behind this. That we have, there's other places we have details that we track and keep up with. The good news is, but this one in particular has got lots of interest from both public and board members in the community. And some of the things that sound like they are, even in the Inflation Reduction Act, it sounds like it's done. Here is $1 or $1 billion or however many dollars. And there's an awful lot of work that has to happen to put it in place. And so Janie and a bunch of folks are watching that and keeping up with it. And this is one of those methods we do it. So thank you for sharing it. And hopefully we'll be able to keep you up to date on these things as we move forward.
Yeah, it's neat to see the tools y'all use for some of those different aspects and everything you're tracking. I can only imagine it's a moving target, and those type of tools are impressive and also essential to across an organization the size of JEA to keep track of. But thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Laura, and the Integrated Resource Plan.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
Chairman Morales and Director Baker. Happy to give you a very brief update on the IRP. Most of the updates you've had recently in the full board setting have been about modeling and goals and engineering. And I want to direct some time and attention to the stakeholder process, because that has really been the heart of this IRP 20-month journey. On May 25th, we will have our 8th and final formal stakeholder meeting. And plans are coming together. I will not show you the 6-page matrix that underlies planning for this event. It will be public. We have booked the studio at WJCT, which seats about 300 people. On April 25th, right after the board meeting, an Eventbrite link will go live so that people from the public can register to attend this free event. The event is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be about 90 minutes long. It will start with an overview from Renetta Marshall, talking about the highlights of the executive summary, the importance of integrated resource planning, and what we see as implementation going forward. At the heart of the time is a panel discussion. Jay and 4 of our stakeholders, including Lisa Reineman, who's here in the room with us today, will take the audience through the highlights of the IRP journey. How did we start? Why did we do it? Where did we come to? What was the nature of the diverse input that we got from the stakeholders and the community? And then this is very important. We will allow 30 or 40 minutes for questions and answers with the public. As has been our practice ahead of every stakeholder meeting, we will release the materials and the report 1 week prior so that our stakeholders and the public have time to engage with the materials and formulate their questions. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have about the event. And then Pedro is here too, in case you have any questions or comments about goals or some of the material that he's presented in the past.
I don't have any additional questions other than this final stakeholder meeting. Have you already started receiving RSVPs, or how many people are you anticipating?
We have not yet published the Eventbrite link. Our stakeholders, every stakeholder, we have about 25, is invited to first invite 3 people from their own organization or their own community networks. So we'll let those seats fill up first, and then the balance of the seats will be open for the public.
So
I'm guessing we'll have a full house.
No, that's great, and I think that's what's important is the community engagement and the open communication that this entire IRP has gone through, and I really congratulate. I've heard from many of the stakeholders that they really appreciate, if anything, peeking behind the curtain, if you want to say, of how the sausage is made, and understanding the process and being part of the process. I think it's been essential. I don't think every constituent group is 100% thrilled with where we are today, but I think they all feel they've been part of the process, and it's been a great process, and they appreciate it. And obviously, then this will come to the entire board at this next meeting for a vote.
It will. In this particular time, normally items on the board committees would go to the consent agenda. We want to go through these goals one more time in the public setting. So this will not be a consent agenda item. We'll have it as a discussion point for the board, which is a little different than normal board committee materials. But I think that being sure that we say this one more time to let everybody know kind of where we're coming from and how we're doing this is important.
Super. I think it's essential.
I should add too that while the event on the 25th is a signature event and it's very important, it's not the only time we will be out in the public talking about the process, the stakeholders, the goals and next steps. Pedro and Jordan Pope and I, along with Sheila Presley and Ray Marshall, addressed a group of about 40 large commercial customers yesterday. We kept things at a very high level, but wanted very much to explain the 20-month journey, our lessons learned. People had a range of questions, including, when are you going to do this for water? What will the next IRP be like? So it was very good engagement. And then Jay's got some media opportunities in early and mid-May. And after the 25th, we'll continue to go out there and push information and invite feedback.
Well, that's great. Pedro, just want to make sure you didn't have anything else to add.
Nothing to add. Just answer any questions there, Annie. Looking forward to next.
Great. Well, I congratulate y'all on the process and all of your stakeholders for all the time and energy that everybody has put into this. I know it's been a ton of work, but I think it's been a
Rick,
process. Yes.
I was having trouble getting off of mute. I think this is absolutely incredible, what we've done, and I hope that the great feedback that we have gotten from our stakeholders will encourage us to keep doing it, even on just a regular basis, to keep our stakeholders updated on what's going on at JEA, because that's how they really grow to believe and understand how important a community utility is.
Absolutely, John. Thank you. I think it makes them part of the process, and I think it's huge. And I just want to echo John's words and say thank you.
Well, we appreciate the support from the board, and yes, this experience is very encouraging in terms of getting out there more and sharing even more.
Sure. Well, thank you. That concludes our agenda. Any old business or new business? Seeing none, our next committee meeting will be September 8th. And if there's nothing else before the committee, we'll call for adjournment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry about that. Yeah. Who's Rick? Morales.
Oh.